Welcome to another episode of the Marketer's Edge, a series designed to share senior level marketing perspective about marketer challenges, opportunities, and agency relationships. Our goal is to help marketers learn from other marketers across different industries and to help provide perspective for agencies about the things that marketers deal with every day to help them better represent their clients and win new business. Today, we're talking with Becky Freemal, the Chief Marketing Communication Officer at ValleyStar Credit Union out of Virginia. Becky, thanks for joining us today. How have you been?
Very good. Thanks for having me, Mark. I
Good,
appreciate it.
good. Hey, I've been back to what was your hometown and my hometown of Cincinnati lately.
I was there over the holidays, and I plan on going to Cincinnati, go back home in June to go to Kings Island in an FC
Oh,
Cincinnati game.
awesome. I love it. I love it. That's great. Well, hey, listen, I've got a small handful of questions for you, but before we do that, can you tell me a little bit about Valley Star Credit Union and your role in the organization so our viewers know what kind of company it is and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So ValleyStar Credit Union is part of a lot of people call it the larger credit union movement. Our
Okay.
hashtag, which all marketers know and love hashtags, is people helping people. It's been a saying long before it was a hashtag. And that is exactly what it's all about. I think in modern day, a lot of other businesses and corporations are starting to catch up with corporate social responsibility, but
Right.
people helping people has always been a thing. It's been the foundation of credit unions since the beginning of credit unions in the industry. And Valley Star is no different. And other than that, we do a lot of products and services that financial institutions would have. We have your checking and your savings and your mortgages and your
Sure.
commercial loans and, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So that's what we do. And we have branches throughout Southwest Virginia, Central, and Eastern
Okay.
Virginia.
And your role as Chief Marketing Communication Officer, what sorts of
Yes.
things occupy your time during a given week?
Oh my goodness, what does? So human capital is a big one.
Okay.
This week, I will be completely honest. This week, I just happened to do a lot of work with my team and my people.
Okay.
I think that honestly, I'll be honest. I think that you have to treat your team at Valley Star Credit Union or at any corporation you're at as a whole. And a lot of people are being impacted by the stress that comes with a global pandemic. There's a lot going
Right.
on overseas with Ukraine, with Ukraine right now, and I
Right.
think it really affects people as much as you don't want it to be. And
Yeah.
I would tell you that a lot of my time sometimes is on just that.
Sure.
I also think it's important for marketing and communication to realize that's who we're marketing to. It's impacting the whole world,
Right.
whether
Right.
they're my employees or not. But we
Yeah.
have a mission at Valley Star, employees first, members benefit. And there's a
Yeah.
lot of
That's I love that.
tangible aspects of that mission.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of it is
Yeah.
taking care of
Yeah.
each other.
Your people in a service industry, your people are probably more important than the ad campaigns that you run because
Absolutely.
if it doesn't pay out on the people side of things,
Right.
then that's a problem.
Right.
I'm curious. Your background is an interesting one. You had quite the career in broadcast television. You were a reporter. You were an anchor in a couple of different markets. I'm curious what moved you to make the jump over into the world of finance, specifically Valley Star?
One of the things that I loved about my news and broadcast journalism background was you always felt like you were making a difference. Don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people who did not like what we did on a day to day basis, but there were many more people who really appreciated the work of reporters. And I carry that with me everywhere I go. And I really felt like I made an impact in people's lives. And I joke that I'm not running for Miss America because it sounds like I'm about to talk about world peace on you. But people helping people really resonates with me. It's
Okay.
really important to me. And to know that I can continue what's most important to me just in a different industry
Yeah.
was a key aspect,
Yeah.
huge
That's
aspect.
great. So staying on the topic of your background, I'm curious how the world of broadcast journalism has impacted your new life as a chief marketing officer. Do you think you look at the world differently than your typical marketer? And if so, why and how? And are there things you're doing now that you might not have done had you not had the experiences that you had?
I definitely can tell you how it's impacted me and how I look at things.
Hmm.
Of course, none of us necessarily 100% will ever know would it
Sure.
be different? Because you can't live your life in parallel and say, okay, this is the one this way and this is that way, and let's compare them.
Right.
But the biggest thing for me is reaching people where they are, and when you're a journalist, that is hugely important. I mean, one day
Okay.
you might be doing a court case and talking to lawyers, attorneys, and more so, and more importantly, the family members who are impacted by whatever the court case is about, whether there was a death or a murder or a financial situation. I mean, there's so many things. And then you might leave that story and go to a ribbon cutting where everyone is excited and happy, and you have to meet those people where they are at that moment. And that is something I've carried with me everywhere I've gone. And so when I arrived at ValleyStar Credit Union, and as you know, I was broadcast news, I did research science, I did higher education and business, and now I'm at financial institutions. But it does not matter what vertical you're talking about, you are still trying to communicate to the same people. So Becky Freemal might be looking at Virginia Tech, where I once worked, as, I might want to become a student there. I might want to get my MBA there, which is what I did end up doing. But then I'm still the same person when I leave that application process and head over to valleystar.org to sign up for something. And I want those people to talk to me. I'm not changing. I'm still who I am. And so those people need to realize it's not like, oh, we market differently when we're a financial institution opposed to if we're, Virginia Tech or some higher ed.
Right.
You just need to be authentic. And I so get that is such a buzzword right now, and it almost makes people want to roll their eyes. But, when you leave the buzzword side of it, there is you just can't be disingenuous. It's really important that you meet people where they are. And I learned that into my very soul during journalism.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So the 2021 launch of the new positioning and campaign for ValleyStar, I'm curious, was that a move to help further separate yourself out from competing banks, or was it designed to further distinguish yourself from other credit unions?
I will tell you the first thing that was to build connection with the people we serve. That was
Okay.
at the pinnacle and center of everything that we did.
Got it.
I'm not going to be foolish and say we don't look at competitors. Obviously, you do.
Hmm.
But our most important thing is connecting to our current members and to potential members and to those people in the communities that may never be a member, but that we still help serve that greater area. So that
Sure.
was our biggest focus point. And that's really why we came up with our tagline, "We speak your language," kind of based on what I just answered before.
Right.
We want people to know that we speak your language. And, Mark Snyder might be this person on Monday, and you might have something great or horrible happen. And on Tuesday, you're almost a very different person or coming at us from a different angle.
Sure.
So it's not even Mark to Becky to Sue to Joe. It's the same person throughout their life. They have different needs. So it was really important that we speak your language. When it comes to credit unions or banks, no matter what the financial institution is, at the end of the day, no matter what title you have, you're all there to help the people. And that is what we want to set ourselves apart, is truly feeling that. And I guarantee you, if you asked a bank or a credit union, they're all going to say that they feel they're unique for their unique selling proposition. Everyone feels very strongly about it. But at the end of the day, we're here to serve the people, and those are the people that we focus on.
Do you, I've had our agency, new business side of our business since 2005. And I know sort of if I dial back in time, there was a point in time where credit unions were trying to sort of define generally speaking, their point of difference relative to banks. Is the industry sort of past that at this point, and it's more about sort of, as you're talking about, establishing those connections and really focusing on the customers and the potential customers versus worrying yourself about the big bank and how they're talking about themselves?
I definitely don't want to act like I can speak for all of credit unions, but I can
No, of
tell you
course.
just, from our perspective here in Southwest Virginia, there are a lot of people in our area who still like the ability to just walk into the branch and see that favorite ValleyStar colleague of mine, whoever it might be, and
Right.
say, "Hey, Mark, Mark, you're going to be my guy for this whole time we're talking. Hey,
Yeah.
Mark, how are you?" And they have that connection. And
Right.
all marketers, communicators have the same issue, which is you have to connect with the people you have while continually building up new people. Well, for us, and I think a lot of people have this, we have older members, but we also want to attract younger members. And I equate that sometimes as like riding a horse. One foot's on one horse and one foot's on the other, and they're at wildly different speeds, but you got to stay on both of them as you're going through.
That's no easy task.
Yeah, it is. It's not always an easy task. So, it goes back to just making sure that we are talking to people and meeting them at where they are.
Yeah.
No matter if you're a bank or a credit union, but we do have that kind of local feel to us, and we really want to capitalize on that.
So I'm going to sort of talk about my own personal experience. I mean, I think credit unions, are great things. I love the concept of it being a member organization, love the personal touch that credit unions seem to play up relative, some relative to their banking counterparts, whether it's intentional or not. But I'm curious, like just personally, I do all of my personal and business banking with one exception at Fifth Third, which I'm sure you're familiar with, being from Cincinnati. General Electric Credit Union has a mortgage on my house. So how does an organization like ValleyStar, or in my case, say GE Credit Union, better endear me to more of what that credit union has to offer? Can you speak a little bit to the things you think about or try and do to bring folks like myself deeper into your organization?
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is, and you touched upon it when you said the word member, and that we are there to serve our members. As you know, as a bank, you're a customer, and at a credit union, you're a member. And I think a lot of people genuinely are like, whatever, I don't even know what that means. But it does mean something. And it is, to me, very endearing, which is when you as a member give us your deposits, you take our loans. I mean, just like a bank, we make our money off interest from a loan or the deposits that come in. That doesn't change. But what is a differentiator is we don't take that money that we make and then have to go pay off shareholders. It goes back to our membership to boost our products, to boost our services. We're not paying some external third party of shareholders. Right. So if you give us your trust, and you take our products, our services, our deposits, our loans, any kind of money we make off of that cycles right back in. Right, and that's important, really important to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I know one of the personally frustrating things about Fifth Third, you talked about your credit union manager having a solid relationship with their customers and that being somewhat sustainable over time. I probably, in the 15 years I've had my business, I probably have had 8 to 10 different bank managers that have been assigned to me, and it's crazy. It can be a frustrating experience for sure. So, as you look forward, I'm curious, what is your prediction on what the banking and credit union world look like? Is it different than it is today? Do you see it being just sort of more, not that it's a bad thing, more the same, or any thoughts on, how customers interact with different kinds of financial institutions like yours? Any perspective you might share?
I think it has to be different. I think that you just have to accept, and we're different now than, life is different now than it was 5 years ago or 10 years ago. Heck, it's different than it was 2 years ago before the pandemic.
Right.
The pandemic expedited quite a few things. I think that you need to make sure that you stay on that evolving front edge and keep your eye on fintechs. And instead of looking at fintechs as the enemy, actually look at fintechs to say, what are you doing that we can learn from?
Okay.
I always think it's really important to find the people who are the best in the room, so to speak, and see what you can do to either emulate that or even take it and make it even better. Mm-hmm. And so I think fintechs are not a scary word, or that is not a scary word, fintech, but it's something that we should really learn more about. And I think credit unions and banks somewhat have a reputation of being a little bit sleepy, especially when you connect it to a fintech type idea. What I think we need to also do, and I think credit unions do a great job at this already, based on what I said with our membership and that the people are at the core of everything we do, is to continue to give them that spectacular service and that human connectedness. I think a lot of us realized during this global pandemic how important human connection is.
Right.
And I think it was a good eye-opener. I think a couple people were like, oh, we're all about digital. We don't need this human connection. And I think we've all learned quite quickly in this great experiment of the last year or two that we do need that human connection. And so take that and marry those together, that fintech, digital, evolving innovation, with always remembering that we are human no matter what and keeping those connected. And I really think we can do some phenomenal things down the road.
I'm curious. Staying connected is and building up that relationship. Is extra important to credit unions. How did ValleyStar sort of manage through that over the last couple of years, given the pandemic?
Oh,
Did they do
goodness.
think did you do things differently than you had done before? Or
Oh, absolutely. And some days were messier than others. And I think everybody can answer that question. The high level, that's the answer for every corporation in the world.
hmm
I mean, this was, again, I kind of alluded to it earlier. It was the great experiment that none of us wanted to be thrown into, but had no choice.
right,
So you just you did what you thought was right at the moment. And then when you look at it, either in the middle of it or looking back at it, you're like, that worked or that didn't. Let's axe that was a weakness, but let's capitalize on the strength.
okay,
I mean,
yep,
and you just constantly, and we're still doing that. Mark, I'll tell you, our biggest thing was probably closing branches. We
okay,
closed the
interesting,
lobbies for people's health. And, we all
yeah,
had to socially distance. And so only drive-throughs were open or our digital platforms. And our younger members, I mean, it wasn't that clear of a divide, but I will tell you that younger members really capitalized on that. And I think some of our older members had a harder time. But we
sure,
just got some of our numbers back from 2021. And it was something like we had a 163% increase in 2021 of online loan applications.
Hmm,
That's amazing.
wow,
It
yeah,
really goes to show people and humans that, hey, you thought you couldn't do this, but you can. And
yeah.
guess what? Now that you've done it, look how convenient it was. Look how wonderful digital is and how sustainable it is. I mean, there's so many things that go with where we're headed that will really help people. They just got to get outside of their own brains and maybe just not be so afraid of change, because
Yeah,
change
yeah.
is here. It's coming.
Is a credit union like ValleyStar trying to help consumers see the value in some of those things that they may
Yes.
not? Okay, okay, got it.
Absolutely. I mean, when people come into branches, we have, our frontline staff, as we call them, the people that you would see when you walk in the door. I mean, frontline staff kind of is lingo I never heard of until I worked at a credit union, but it's just your tellers and the folks at the drive through. And, when you walk in the door, they make those connections and they share it with people. And we have iPads at every location so they can just pick it up and show a member, like, look, tap, 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 and show them how it's
Nice.
done.
Yeah, yeah,
But you also know with any kind of digital technology, you just got to dig in and do it. So if someone shows you and then you walk away a week later, you're going to be like, oh, how did we do that again? So
I I've
we
been
follow
there.
up on those.
Yeah, that's great. Curious, do you currently work with marketing agencies? And if so,
Yeah.
curious, what are you using them most often to help you with?
Well, gosh, that depends what day you ask.
Okay. So a
Thanks
lot
to
of
the
different
pandemic.
things.
Yeah, I mean, it's evolved. It peaks and valleys. I mean, some days, like right now, we have a really strong internal team. And when I say strong, like we've got numbers.
Okay.
Gosh, at one point there were two of us. Now we're back up to five, which is what we'd like to
Okay.
have.
Okay, nice.
And our external team is our team. Sure,
Okay.
one's internal and one's
That's
external, and
great.
we will differentiate that way. But for us, it's one big marketing and communication team. And
That's
the
great.
way we built it out at ValleyStar, we didn't just hire one agency and say, hey, agency X, you do all these things,
Mhm.
come on board. We picked and choose almost like a wholesaler. I don't know how
Okay.
warehousing, like,
Yep.
Mark, you're a graphic designer. We're going to bring you on for that. Hey, Sharon. Sharon Rappaport is our creative director, our external. Phenomenal. She's the one
Mhm.
who helped us build our new brand voice and our
Okay.
tagline. That's her. We have Brand Cottage, which is a company out of, actually, they're all over the country. They're all remote. A group of wicked intelligent women who have helped us get our paid media team up and running, our paid
Hmm.
media plan. So you pick and choose. I want you for this. I want you for that,
Right.
and it's worked out great. I love it.
What do you see the advantages of in-house versus using agencies? Are there any sort of advantages to one or the other that you think are important to help our viewers understand?
Yeah, so graphic design for me, this is totally, again, Becky
Hmm.
Freemal's thoughts on life, but
Hmm.
for me, graphic design, I think could go either way. We could
Okay.
potentially hire people internally for that. We have external, and that's where we're going to stay because they're great and we like them, so we want to keep it as it is. Paid media is an example of an area, a topic, so to speak, that we're going to always keep externally
Okay.
because we have currently an entire team of people through Brand Cottage that are constantly on top of the game because we know that paid media and digital platforms and the algorithms and the
Got it.
reach and the impressions and oh my gosh, changes every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
If you hired one person internally, they could never keep up with the 6 people who that's
Yeah.
all they do.
Yeah. That's
So
right.
paid media to me almost always would be it's just a non-starter for me. It's always,
Yeah.
I feel like it's always going to be
So it
external. So it
sounds
just
like
kind of depends.
things that are maybe a little bit more technical or
Yeah.
require certain expertise beyond, design work, as an example. It sounds like those kind of things you might look outside for more often than not.
Yeah, and I'd take that one step further and say it's also not just the technical, but the evolution. I mean, paid media is
Okay.
always evolving, and you need
Okay.
that group who
Okay.
just stays on it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. Okay. And you talked about using an outside firm for the brand positioning and campaign work. I'm sure you have it sounds like a solid internal team. It sounds like you see value in bringing some outside perspective in that can help you think about things in a different way. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, again, kind of back to buzzwords. A lot of people talk about design thinking, and they
Right.
become buzzwords for a reason, and it's because the premise of it works. And if you
Right.
bring in a group of people that are thinking in different ways and through different lenses, and you have that diversity of thought,
Hmm.
that diversity of thought comes from so many different ways, whether it's a man or a woman or different ethnicities or different ages. All of that is important, as is internal and external, because it can also help you with, we work with other agencies, or I mean, I'm sorry, other corporations, and some of them
Right.
may not even be financial institutions, and they bring in, hey, you know what? This really worked for the bread company, and I
Yep.
think it could work for you guys. You're not
Yeah.
in the same vertical, but it's the same idea.
Yeah. Well, great. Just a couple more questions. Any advice you'd give to a marketer thinking about bringing a new agency on board?
Um, I took a lot of. I asked around. I asked so many questions. Oh my gosh, Mark! I am truly a broadcast journalist or just a journalist in my heart. And it could be every personality trait comes with a pro and a con. I love to research and I ask a million questions, and
Okay.
so that's what I did with all of my team. And I asked other people, "Do you use these people? What did you think about them? What did you like?"
Hmm.
And then I will give you one other very kind of simple piece of advice, or the listeners, that helped me was when I got to ValleyStar, we used an external agency who did a great job. It was just time to move on,
Hmm.
but they had all of our stuff on their platform. So
Mm.
when it came time to move,
Yes,
they were
difficult.
wonderful and they gave us everything. But I was like, what happens if they choose not to be wonderful? They have all of our
Yeah.
assets. So
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
we have our own project management platform, Hive. We use Google Drive. We had Pix.io, but now we're using Google Drive as our
Okay.
digital asset manager. But my point is, now we're not going to, but if now we said, hey, let's move on from all these external team members and just go back to one agency,
Yeah. It'd be a heck of a lot easier.
right.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. I mean, the air was
Yeah.
sucking out of the room on me, but slash it didn't because the old
Yeah.
agency they were good people. And so
That's
we knew
cool.
we were okay. But so
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
I'd keep everything that you own on your
Yeah.
platform.
That's great. And my last question is, if an agency was trying to knock down your door and attempting to win business from you, what advice would you give them?
Oh goodness, that's a tough one, Mark, because every day, all day long, I literally in my email inbox have a folder called selling stuff.
Okay.
And I
Nice.
just drag them over because
Okay.
I get so many. Now they're hitting me up on LinkedIn, and so now I'm just deleting them. Rising above the noise is hard. It really is.
Hmm.
Um, Gosh, oh, give me a minute. I guess maybe they could call if you caught me. I think
Yeah.
really it's luck. Like
Yeah.
call, and if I pick up the phone because I'm not in a meeting or something. Mark, perfect example. You emailed me about this podcast, and I'm like, is that legit? Or are they trying to sell me something? And it took me a while to reply to you because I was like,
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know. And then when I called you, you're like, no, we're legit. I just wanted to talk to you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, let's do it. So
Yeah.
it's hard to rise above the noise. I think
Right.
conferences help,
Okay.
because you can get FaceTime. And I'm
Yep.
going out to a conference next week that I'm really looking forward to. And when we go, I think I'll meet some people. And when you look
Sure.
someone in the eye,
Yeah. It's a
whether
little
it's
bit different. Yep.
here
Yep.
or in person, um, that you
Do
have
you
that
see a
connection.
lot of sameness, it sounds like, across the messages that different agencies are trying to send you?
Oh my goodness, just yesterday I deleted an email that said, I don't mean to bother you, but this is my fourth attempt. And I'm like, fourth attempt means bother.
I love it.
I was just like, I just deleted it. I had already replied and said that we
Oh,
weren't
that's beautiful. That's great.
word of
Well,
mouth. I think
yeah,
that's a good answer. Word of mouth. Do
yeah,
good for who you're currently working with, and then they share the love with other
yeah.
people.
No, that's great. Well, hey, listen, Becky, it's been a real pleasure. You've given us some great insights and perspective that I think will not only help the marketers watching today, but also the agencies, giving them an idea of how somebody like you operates, the kind of challenges you deal with, the kind of challenges that market or agencies are going to have in busting through to folks like you.
Yeah.
um, it certainly is no easy task for sure. But yeah, well, listen, I really appreciate it. Next time you're in Cincinnati, look us up. We'd love to meet you face to face, and
Yeah.
wish you all the best, and hope you have a great rest of your day.
Same to you, Mark. Thanks so much.